everyone, welcome to this week's Karma Cards. How are you doing? This energy has been interesting and I think a little intense. It's felt intense for the last 2 weeks. I know I talked about that last week as well, but we're really at the bottom of the emptying out that happens with every full moon. So as the moon reaches its peak of fullness, it starts to wane, right? So it starts to empty out. And as we're going through that emptying out period, it's natural for us to sort of focus on or be drawn to focus on what to let go of. And we reach that bottom point of total letting go when we reach the new moon, which happens to be on Friday, February 9th. And by the way, if you'd like to join me for the new moon happening in Aquarius, you can join me at this link here. It's in the description below. And we are going to be going through what the energy is talking about, how to best work with it, how to focus our manifesting, as well as psychic Q&A. And I'd love to have you join us. So naturally, the energy emotionally is around letting things go. Now, on top of that, we've got so much energy happening in the sign of Aquarius, which is the sign of the new age that we're moving into. And what this is pointing at is that things have to be done differently. So Aquarius represents the cutting edge of thought. It represents the future, moving forward, right, with a clear vision and usually some inventiveness, right? Some that we've got to get out of the rut we've been in and move forward in a different direction. And there's so much energy here. We have a stellium happening in Aquarius at this time. We've got Mercury, the sun, the moon will be joining us on the new moon, and we have Pluto, which is the one I want to look at right now because Pluto has moved into the sign of Aquarius where it will be permanently living after November, I believe, of this year. So we're going to be, we are in Pluto and Aquarius right now. We're going to retrograde back into Capricorn for a couple months starting in September. And then I believe after November, we fully move forward into the sign of Aquarius and go deeper and deeper. Now with Pluto, it's all about what empowers you. And if it doesn't empower you, it gets purged. So when we're looking at this energy with Pluto now in Aquarius, it's looking for what's disempowering us, the old patterns of the things that don't work. And those are being sort of drudged up to be released so that we can move forward in a more powerful way. What makes Pluto, so Pluto's an outer planet, it tends to affect us on a group level. But what makes it even more potent right now is that it's at 0 degrees. So it's at one of the most potent degrees it can be in, which means it's kind of getting a spotlight, if you will. So there's more attention drawn to it and it's more powerful. And with it in the sign of Aquarius, it is about breaking down these patterns that no longer serve us. And we could see that happening sort of on the world stage, but it's also happening for each of us internally. We have to get to the core of the issue and figure out how to deal with things differently. So you might have noticed that you've got some deep stuff coming up at this time. We also have a connection between Chiron happening and the North Node. So Chiron, it's a planetoid. It deals with what needs to be healed. That's in the sign of Aries, and the North Node is in Aries. So Chiron's talking about what needs to be healed, and the North Node talks about our emotional desire, what we're being pulled to. So we're being pulled to focus on healing ourselves because Aries represents the self, our relationship to ourself. And so with both Pluto doing some cleanup work to help get us empowered and Chiron saying, you've got to heal this, a lot of deep-seated stuff is coming to the surface. It's going to come up from your subconscious mind into your consciousness. And you might feel like you keep getting hit with similar events over and over again. Or you just might feel like in the past couple weeks, it's a culmination of certain emotional patterns in your life that you're just kind of up to here with it. Why do I have to keep experiencing this pattern? And I'm here to share with you the why so that you can get your head around it and recognize that it's actually not, it's not meant to torture you or make you feel like you haven't grown. It's actually here to show you that you're ready to move through it. My team just wants to share with you and remind you about how the subconscious mind works, because if you really understand this process, it starts to feel empowering. Because a lot of times I think that when we focus on healing, we're thinking about, like, healing itself is such a gentle sounding word, isn't it? Like, I don't know about you, but to me, I'm like, healing reminds me of soothing. It's like, this is a good thing. And the results of healing are very soft or gentle. I mean, there's a wonderful resolved feeling that helps you feel very grounded and whole again after you go through healing. The process of healing, however, can feel like you're getting slapped around or kicked around or driven over several times. It's not always a pleasant process, is my point. And I often think that people confuse the end result of healing with the process of healing. And so when they're in the process of healing, they don't recognize that they're in the process. And so I want to share with you how it works. So your subconscious mind loves you dearly, loves you, wants you to be healthy. Its number one priority is to help you feel, whole, healthy, safe. These are the priorities of the subconscious mind. So when we have traumatic experiences, especially in early childhood, those experiences, when they cannot be consciously understood at the time, they get absorbed into the subconscious mind, where they're stored for a time. Now, when the subconscious has sensed a level of growth in you, a level of maturity, when it senses that you have tools to deal with issues that are long held, it will release those memories to you, to your conscious mind. It will release it and show it to you. And this is actually sort of a compliment from your subconscious mind. It's basically acknowledging, hey, you're ready. You have the ability to view this now, and you can do something about it. I recognize that you are healed to a certain point, or you've grown to a certain point, and you've accumulated the tools that you need to help you heal this, and I can now release it to you to be healed, because it needs to be consciously addressed in order for it to be healed. So when we're going about our day, or an event happens in our life and we get deeply triggered, if you also get the resurgence of a deep held memory, that's sort of a seed point that your subconscious mind is trying to share with you. This is connected to this seed point, and it's offering you the opportunity to address it and heal it. I know that in the past, for me, when those would come up, my instant reaction to it would be like, oh God, no. Like you'd think about it, and all you want to do is push it back down, right? Suppress it. You're like, I don't want to look at that. I want to think of that. That was humiliating or embarrassing or really painful. No. When we do that, the subconscious mind simply goes, okay, I'll try another time, right? And it reabsorbs it, and then it's out of your mind again. What you're going to find is that during periods like this, especially as we're moving closer and closer into this energy, and I know this is a process that feels like it's taking forever, but really it's quite accelerated, okay? We are in an accelerated ascension process. It has picked up since 2012. It's picked up since 2020. We are picking up speed. So as long as this feels like it's taking forever, it's actually, I want you to think about how long have you been aware of it, and how long have you really felt like you've been in the deepest parts of your healing. I'm sure you've been working through healing all your life, but the deepest, like, core stuff, how long have you been there? And if you look at it, you might notice that it's been, might have been years, could have been a decade, but still, compared to how long it could take, it's been, a certain amount of time. It feels longer than it is what I'm trying to say. We're in an accelerated period, but that also means the closer we get to sort of the ultimate moment, right, to the peak pinnacle of this ascension, the more we need to release the stuff that weighs us down. The inner work must be done. And so there is a natural tendency for this to kind of like, you try to suppress it, and it's like you burp it right back up, just comes right back into your conscious mind. And that's because your subconscious is like, no, we can't hold on to this anymore. It has to be addressed. And with all the cosmic energy supporting us right now, it's saying, purge it. It's time to let this go. It's time to understand what's happening here and let it go, right? Understand, move through the steps of awareness, acceptance, forgiveness, and resolution, which allows it to let go. So now stuff is bubbling up from your subconscious into your conscious mind more rapidly, and it's letting you know, look, all these things that you think just keep happening on repeat are connected to core moments, and these core moments want you to address it. And not only that, but because of all the Aquarian energy connected to it this time, it's letting you know you can't deal with the situation the same way you always have. So if you have a coping mechanism around something like, let's say, people pleasing, and that's how you sort of work around one of these scenarios that comes up, it's not going to work for you anymore. You have to find a new approach, an approach that's more empowering to you rather than disempowering. And so we're going through this en masse, and I'm seeing it. I see it in myself. I see it in family members and clients and friends. We're going through it for real. And I find that to be reassuring as well, and sometimes it's challenging too, because it's just like everybody seems like they're going through something right now. And so I still encourage you to be gentle with yourself as this comes up. The kindest thing you can do is, one, allow it, recognizing that this isn't coming up because you're broken. It's coming up because it's ready to heal, and your subconscious is acknowledging, hey, you've got what it takes now. Let's do this, right? So that's a good thing. And two, I think the kindest thing we can do when we recognize a pattern in ourselves, a pattern of behavior, is to simply acknowledge that at the time, however you dealt with it, whatever you had to do to deal with it, you were doing the best you could at that time. Is giving ourselves the grace that we're doing the best we can. And even now, if you find yourself slipping back into old patterns of behavior, or getting overwhelmed or frustrated, or trying to push it away and resist it, again, giving yourself the grace that I'm doing the best I can right now. And as we give ourselves that grace, we ease the process a little bit. The only way to truly heal from anything is to go through it. And we try, as human beings, we try so hard to go over, under, around, but we're always avoiding going through. And through is the way out, right? So if you find that you're avoiding trying to go through it, gentle, I'm doing the best I can. This scares me, and saying it, acknowledging how it's affecting you at this time is another way to be gentle with yourself. It's acknowledging what it is. And as soon as you can understand that, it allows it to be easier to move through it. So, we are coming up to a new moon, which means, again, that something is coming in. And that's another part my team would have me share with you, is that as hard as this can feel at times, you're not here forever, right? We're offered experience in 50-50 quantities, meaning 50% negative, 50% positive, because it's the nature of the plane that we're on. We can't have it all one way or another, which sometimes feels like crap, because when things are good, it's like everybody knows that something's coming. And yet it's also a saving grace, because when things are bad or hard or difficult, it can't stay that way forever either. And so at least there's grace in that. And so wherever you're at in this cycle, whether it's resolved, whether it's in the middle of healing, whether you're in resistance to it or not, wherever you are on the path, you're doing the best that you can, and give yourself that grace and that bit of understanding, and it'll help ease you through the process as we move forward. And with that, let's look at this week's karma cards. All right, so if you're new to karma cards, let me quickly show you how these work. I have 4 decks here: planets, signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And I've got 2 sets of answers, a set in red, which are action related, and a set in blue, which are outcome related. And the way that you play is you tune in with your beautiful intuition and feel what is the guidance you're looking for this week. Is it action related guidance or outcome? And of course, you can always choose both. And while you are choosing, let me tell you the timing for this message. This message is through February 7th through the 14th. And the flavor of this message. All right, so we have the South Node. And the South Node is about what we're letting go of, right? So we know that there is a focus on letting go. And look at this. Aquarius also shows up in this because I told you we have an Aquarius stellium. A lot of Aquarian energy going on right now. And the specific area it's looking at is the 10th house, which is what we are putting out in the world. It can also be talking to your career, but it's just talking about the energy you're giving out to the world, your legacy. All right, spiritual action at this time. Remember your vision responsibly. All right, so what I get from this is the vision helps you understand what needs to heal, meaning whatever you're moving towards, and then whatever comes up as a result of focusing on that, that's the thing that needs to be let go of. That's what needs to heal. For example, if you're moving forward on building a career, then your feelings about inadequacy about doing that, let's say you're going to be an entrepreneur for the first time and you've never done it before, and you worry that you lack those skills, that feeling of lack around ability, that's what needs to be let go of. And to remember your vision responsibly also means that you're not going to use your goals for the future to sort of whitewash or cover over the work that needs to be done. Meaning, we don't want to go toxic positive with this and be like, nothing's wrong. All I have to do is focus on this thing that I want and I'm going to get it. No. A lot of times when we get really clear about what we want, then what gets really clear in life is about what's in our way, preventing us from already being there, right? So if you see what you want and then you're not there, there's usually some pattern, something energetic, something emotional, something you might need to change that you're doing in your routine daily that's got to change so you can be a frequency match to what it is you want. So again, they're letting us know that you focus on the vision to help you get clear about why this needs to heal, but you still have to engage with the healing in order to get it. You can't bypass it. You've got to go through it to get it. Mental action at this time, reconsider what's new and different about success. I think this one's really interesting. I can't remember who I was chatting with about this, but what's new and different, oh yeah, I remember who I was chatting with about this. What's new and different about success for a lot of people is authenticity is the key. And even though that's always been a major component of success, it's even more so now, right? Because the higher we go in energy, the better we are at recognizing energy around us. So we can recognize when someone is in their authentic energy and state, and we can also recognize when there's sort of a facade energy. It's like you might not be able to pinpoint exactly what it is, but you smell it. And when you smell it, you just kind of know, something's off here and I don't trust that. So people really are leaning more into the authentic now than the polished or the glamour, if you will. Like the glamour isn't fooling anybody anymore. And it's kind of like when you think about, and I'm not bashing anyone, just like influencers who are like, look at my, expensive lifestyle. I work from this yacht every day, that kind of thing. That was really big for a while where people were just like, wow, that's the life I want. And that was being shown to them and sort of sold. And some of those people were authentic and others were not. They were manipulative, and people really feel that now. And more than ever, the world just wants authentic people walking around. So this is great. This is great for us because now the effort isn't built up into creating an image that you think will attract people, but really standing in your own power and owning what's going on for you that's really attractive to people and really draws in the support or or the business, if that's part of your business, whatever it is you need, the key is authenticity. Physical action at this time. Now is not the time to use an unconventional way to become a person of power and status. So again, with the card like the South Node, it is not an action card in terms of go outward and do something. It's more about inward reflection and changing of tactics. And so even though Aquarius is there saying use an unconventional way, it's saying no, you can't make this tactical change yet. It's about reflecting on how you need to do it different, and that's going to be individually based, right? Some people here who are listening to it, you're always authentic, so that's not really it's not really where you're getting hung up, but there is somewhere that you are, and that's the thing that needs to be addressed here. The actions are internal, not external, even though the impact is external, which is what the 10th house tells you. This is your external impact, right? So this week might feel, again, a little bit like I'm doing all these things to change and I see no progress. Again, the healing process is harder and messier and not as gentle as we want it to be. And you could be doing exceptional work, digging in and creating some changes, and they are not seeing it yet. And that's just because it's still internalized right now. This energy will redirect itself and start externalizing, and you will see the fruits of your labor, because again, this is a karmic year. It is an 8th year of karma. So you're going to see the fruits of your labor. But if you have an expectation that just a little shift in my world shifts, I think that's going to cause some disappointment. So it's about staying kind of grounded and recognizing that, much like a cake, the cake has to cook inside for a while before it's ready. And we just want to be like, I mixed all the ingredients together and I put it in, now let it be done. And it's like, give it a minute. We're in that give it a minute section. It's coming though. Now let's look at outcomes for the South Node in Aquarius in the 10th house of what you're putting out in the world. A spiritual outcome at this time, there will not be genius to experiment with your destiny. And this sort of piggybacks off the last statement, simply saying to me that it's not externalized yet. So this idea of like, what am I healing? Again, the internal conversations, the thinking, the reviewing, the having grace with yourself, the forgiveness, the understanding, the acceptance, these are all internal actions. And as much as we would like it to immediately turn around and give us an external, like, okay, so then I'm going to do this thing in the external world and it's going to get me a different result. We're not going to get that yet. So hang tight. It is sort of a pause moment where, even with the new moon, which is all about manifesting, that doesn't necessarily mean it manifests the day of the new moon, right? You set the intention, you do the internal work, and then you allow your energy to deepen with that, and then it starts to pick up momentum. So we've got to trust this process. It's one of those processes, again, like all I can think of is like the cooking cake. It's like the cake's in there. It's going to be a cake, I promise you, but you have to let it cook. And we're in a cooking period, if that makes sense. Mental outcome at this time. Anxiety about the discoveries of where you are going. I feel like with this one, as I'm talking about healing and I'm telling you how close we really are to this process and it's accelerating, that might give some of you, it's given me a little anxiety about, did I do enough, right? Am I going to make it? Am I going to be on the boat to New Earth, or, metaphorically speaking? Am I going to be with the group that ascends? How many of you get caught up on the anxiety around this from time to time? Drop it in the comments. Just say like me, or yep, felt it. I've definitely felt it. So it's common to think that. What I would say to you is you wouldn't even be aware of this path if you weren't a part of the path, because I feel like the universe is not a cruel system. It's not cruel. And what would that serve you to know that this was happening, but not give you a chance to go over? So I do believe you're part of this path. If you're drawn to these conversations about ascension and about healing of any kind, and that you're working towards this path, there are many people who are going with this higher energy timeline. They are. And some of them know about it, like you, and some of them don't know anything about it. You know what? They'll still be going, right? So if that's one of those fears that pops up because of all the healing work you still realize you have to do, have grace, patience, love, and appreciation for yourself, because it is part of the process. You're not a flawed human. You didn't miss it. You're not going to be stuck somewhere you don't belong. You have the awareness of it. And the goal is to just keep leaning in. You know, like give yourself, like they said last week, incrementally, okay? So you're not asking yourself to like waterboard yourself into healing. It's not about the intensity, but it is about coming back to it. It's like, okay, I can go into this, I can look at it. Now I need a break. I need to disconnect. I need to really comfort myself, and then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to face this again, because I'm focused on where I'm going. Whether you're focusing on the ascension path, the higher timeline, your future, your big dreams, whatever it is you're focusing on, that helps you get the energy to go back in here and be like, okay, I can go through this. You know, sometimes I think of healing like a fire, and you have to go through it, and the fire looks intimidating, it looks scary, it looks like, why would I do that to myself, right? Isn't that going to hurt more? But it is the way out. It is through it. And it's almost this fire is almost an illusion, but fire is also very transmutational. It will change you going through it. And so the anxieties will come up, the fear, the lack, the doubt, all of that will come through, and we will do our best to face it in the moment. We will give ourselves permission to know that we're doing the best we can. We will be gentle with ourselves in the process, and we will return another day to try again or to go in deeper. But we will heal. And even if we don't see the results, the fruits of that immediately, you have changed every time you've gone through your healing process. And physical outcome at this time, trouble resulting from the eccentricity of your career or what you're putting out in the world. My feeling is at this time, whatever you're getting, whatever you're healing, whatever you're trying to express about this, maybe even this video is doing it to someone somewhere, but it's really hard to communicate what you're going through. And because everybody is undergoing this energy, really and truly everybody, the time to heal is now, right? The time to get this is now. We're very close to an 11th hour situation where we got to do it. We got to wrap it up, right? And that's kind of how I feel, is we're in this, we got to wrap this up scenario. And so it's hard to express it when you're through some healing, but you see someone else struggling or needing to heal, and you're trying to communicate that, and they're just like not getting it because they're just not at the place where they're in a different spot. That's all. And what you're saying isn't necessarily connecting to what they're going through, right? So, and I do see this so both Pluto and Mercury are in Aquarius, which means there's kind of a conjunction going on right now there, but it's not necessarily, I don't know why it doesn't feel like it gels that well, right? So Pluto or Aquarius with Mercury is like really forward thinking, like really outside of the box thinking, and Pluto with Aquarius is all about like you have to do this differently, right? So there is this desire to be really different, and yet we gotta be careful because you can't bypass it, and you also cannot give the lesson or the key that you got from going through it yourself to someone else. It's non-transferable because they have to go through it too. That's the only way to transform, is to go through it. So there is this everybody's sort of at different levels. Everyone's at different amounts of capacity. And again, you just have to be in that space where it's like, I'm going through it, but so are you. And when we gain capacity from our understanding, it's holding that space. I think the best thing we could do for others is just hold the space that I know you can do this. I know you can do it. You might not be able to transfer information or share your ahas. It might not land. I can hear some people being like, that's great for you, but that's so different from my scenario, so it doesn't apply and you're not helping, right? So that's where I get the trouble. The trouble doesn't feel like intense negative energy, but simply feeling like I can't fully connect, and that feels bad. Like I feel like I want to be helpful and I can't be helpful. Whatever I'm putting out is not getting picked up. Whatever you're going to put out is not going to be picked up right at this time. So again, we're in this sort of like tender space of discomfort and an inability to sort of fully be able to soothe another person at this time. Or even an inability to feel fully soothed in yourself. And it's a period of time that will pass. And that's something to focus on. Like, I know it's uncomfortable. I know you might not like hearing that, and it doesn't feel, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, like satisfying or protected or something. It might not feel so great to hear that, but it also doesn't last that long. It will switch around. Just right now, there is sort of a flatness that I'm getting. I'm seeing it out there. I'm seeing sort of this disappointment energy out there of like, this isn't what I thought it was, right? I thought this would feel better by now, and it doesn't. And there's sort of that blanket of disappointment that will pass, especially after we get through April, where we get our first retrograde and stuff. May will feel a lot better. Up from this point till April, I think it's sort of bumpy. It's like being on an airplane and we're like, oh, we're on a pocket of turbulence right now. And then the flight will smooth out and then we'll get another one. But ultimately, we're going to land and it's going to be fine. So just keep breathing. Do the best you can to absorb the messages you're hearing that resonate for you. Be gentle with yourself through the entire process, and you're going to turn out just fine. And in the meantime, I'm right there with you. I know what you're going through. I'm going through it myself. And some days just feel better than others. And those are the days that we should focus on. And the days that don't feel so great, it's a 24-hour period and it can't stay that way forever. So we just breathe. We give ourselves love. We know that we've got this and we're gentle. And with that, I'm sending you so much love. Mwah. See you next week.